Hey guys, I just wanted to make a short little video talking about my experience with importing my R32 GTR into the United States from Canada. It seems like a lot of people don't really consider Canada. I know there's a fair amount of people that know that they have these cars in Canada, but a lot of talk you see online is just about importing from Japan. And Canada, like us, has a 15-year rule rather than a 25-year rule. So they've had these cars in Canada for 11, almost 12 years now, and they're not super common, but in my opinion, it's a lot easier to try and find one in Canada and import it by driving it back than having to pay somebody to ship it over from Japan. I've been looking for one of these for quite a while, almost 2 years, ever since they became federally legal in the US. And it wasn't super easy. Like, it took me the full 2 years to find one, and I kind of lucked out on this one. One issue that you run into quite a bit is on like a classified website or wherever, they'll put one of these cars for sale, and in the first day they'll get 3,000-4,000 people from the US responding to them saying that they're interested in it. And so you have a lot of people that are looking for these cars in the US, so you have a lot of people you have to compete with. And what will happen a lot of times is the person selling the car will get an offer of something ridiculous, and the person won't come through with the amount of money they said they were going to pay, and the whole deal goes through. Well, now that person thinks that's how much the car is worth, and they're not willing to sell it for anything less. So that's become pretty problematic for trying to buy these from Canada. And also, there are people that live in Canada that are taking note of it, and they'll go poach a car out from underneath of you just to sell it later to make a profit. Which I've had that happen to me when I was looking at another car. Someone from Canada actually bought it, and it wasn't quite to the age where it could be imported, and they bought it just to keep in their garage for a couple of months so then they could make a profit on it, hopefully, was their idea once it came of age. So it's not easy by any means, but I feel like it's the best option for just a regular guy who wants to import one of these. Actually, how I came across this one is I'd been looking at a classified site called Kijijis, which is like Craigslist in Canada, and there was a car on there that had been salvaged because somebody broke into it and cut the seats. And in Canada, any car that's older than 1995, if it's been salvaged, it can't be made road legal again after that, as part of an environmental act to try and get older cars off the road that may not get as good a gas mileage as a newer car. So my plan was to just buy that car, import it, and I mean, everything was fine on it. It was running and driving, and if I had to have a salvage title on it or whatever, I mean, in the US they don't care if it's older than 1995. So that was my plan. But before I could buy that car, someone else ended up buying it, and so I asked the guy who was selling it, well, what's he planning on doing with it? Well, he was planning on swapping the engine into another GTR. And long story short, I got his information, and the car that he was swapping the engine into is the one behind me, and I ended up buying the car from him after he swapped the engine. So the way I came about it was unique, and it doesn't happen like that very often, but since it did happen that way, I didn't have people competing with me over it, and I was actually able to buy my airplane ticket a month in advance because we had set up a deal on it, and I wasn't having to compete with other people to try and see who could get there first. So it can be done, but I mean, there's a lot of people out there you got to compete with. And something else you got to keep in mind is it has to be pretty close to stock if you're going to import it. So a lot of the cars you see that have big turbos and a bunch of modifications, you're going to have trouble importing those. Really though, paperwork wise, importing one from Canada is really easy. that you only need the EPA documentation and then the DOT documentation for safety. Those just the two that if you do any Google search on importing one of these, those will be two of the main pieces of documentation that come up usually. That's all you really need once you go across the border. There's nothing else to it. You don't have to pay a port fee and all that stuff like if you imported it from Japan. A couple things to keep in mind that I didn't really think about when I imported this is, one, when I was talking to the guy about buying it, we were going back and forth on price, and we were both translating US to Canadian on our computer, like looking up on Google. Well, I had a price set in my mind based on what Google translated the price to be, but when I went to the bank, the exchange rate had changed. So I ended up paying $200 or $300 more than what I thought I was going to pay, just because the exchange rate changes that quickly, which I did not realize. So if you are planning on buying one of these from Canada and you're going to bring Canadian money, that's something to keep in mind. And another thing to keep in mind that I didn't realize is in Canada, some cell phone providers don't get internet. So my phone got no internet, so once I landed, I wasn't able to pull up any maps or anything to see where I was going, and I was kind of relying on that, and I didn't print off any other maps of how to get to my hotel. So if you are planning on going, check with your cell phone provider or just print off a MapQuest or wherever you're planning to go. If you watch my other video that I have up, it kind of talks about that a little bit, of us getting lost in Canada. But overall, it went pretty well. Once I got to the border with the car, I really didn't have any issues. It took me about 10 minutes to get all the paperwork and everything done and get out of there, which I was very grateful of, because I was worried that I was going to get stuck there for a while, because I've heard horror stories of getting stuck there forever, where they're having to call other people and figure out whether they can actually proceed with importing the car. So I was very fortunate. I don't know if other cars have come through that port and they were just used to it or what, but I was very fortunate and didn't have a lot of issues. So I'm just kind of putting this video out there for anybody who may be seeking information about importing one of these from Canada or wherever else. So if you have any questions about it, just go ahead and leave a comment, and I'll try and help you out the best I can. Yeah, thanks for watching.